Welcome to another episode of the Cosmic Tape Music Club podcast. I am your host, Jacqueline.
I'm Augustus.
And together we are the Galaxy Electric. Today we have a very exciting guest for you. I know we normally just do these things, Augustus and I, but today we are bringing a guest in, and you may know him as Sine Mountain. You may know him as Dave Soto. But we are very honored to have him here with us today to talk about all the fun, crazy, modular, and, who knows where we'll end up kinds of things that we're going to talk about today.
I'm really excited to see what planet we end up on.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Are we in the portal now?
I think we are.
Okay. This is just like
you can always be in the portal if you
okay, cool.
That's access your power.
Out the left window, you'll see.
We're sort of in the portal's green room right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like we're kind of like, there's the janitor's like cleaning up in the back. Like we got, somebody's cooking, so things are happening.
Preparing for the next, experience.
I love that the green room is also the janitorial room, closet, and the kitchen somehow. That's
yeah. All
very
those
efficient
things.
space. This was an open concept.
It's
a tiny house. It's a tiny green room.
We're all about efficiency of space, right? Us modular people.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess we're interested in tape stuff, but also modular, and how those two things were developing kind of in similar eras at similar times and how they informed each other. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your musical journey and sort of how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, so Sine Mountain is your musical project name, correct?
Yeah, that's
okay.
right.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about Sine Mountain, like maybe like the origin story, and like
make it action-packed. We're ready.
Yeah,
exactly. Funny enough,
let's get the director's cut.
The director's cut. So I started to do Sine Mountain after like about a year, almost 2 years of like just taking a break on all music and all kind of creativity stuff. I growing up, I was in punk rock bands, ska bands, hip hop bands, and then when I was in my 20s, I got really into hip hop, and I was doing a lot of MC stuff. I had a couple drum machines. I had a couple keyboards. I had no idea about keyboards or synths back then. I mean, I knew about it, but I had no idea what patching was. I was just hitting presets and twisting knobs and never taking notes. And
had you ever played an instrument prior to getting like a keyboard or like a hip hop setup?
No, I mean, I think the closest thing I had is I think when I was in 6th or 5th grade, my parents got me one of those keyboards that's supposed to teach you how to play.
Sure.
Those nice Yamahas. And that actually got me into classical music because all the examples were all these cool classical tracks. And I was like, that's pretty dope.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
To know that was exciting to you.
Oh yeah, that was super exciting to me. I mean, I had a pretty interesting, musical. I had a lot of music in the background. My parents weren't musicians or anything like that, but my dad had a really good collection of music, and my dad was also the kind of person who really wanted to get like the new, hi-fi system.
Oh yeah, totally.
So we had the CDs before anybody on our block, that sort of thing. And so I listened to a lot of his music, a lot of Motown, a lot of Tex-Mex, and then
what was your favorite medium?
Well, at the time, I think it was kind of goes kind of two ways, because I think the CDs things was awesome. Like hearing the Temptations on CD that first time, I was like, wow. And I was like, dang, this sounds really rich. And I was so used to hearing it, on AM radio and hearing Motown like on records with the pop and the crackle, which was cool. But to hear hi-fi like that was really amazing. But at the same time, I was, I would go to the store and I would buy little 45s. And I remember I had a Dire Straits 45, and I thought that was so cool. So I bought a lot of 45s back then, a lot of
Oh,
like
cool.
rock and roll 45s, and I really got into the B sides. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get this 45, and the B sides is the surprise,
Yes.
track. And so I remember doing that. I remember. So another thing my dad also did, because he liked everything to have everything brand new. We had cable, and we were like the first kids on the block to have cable. And
I don't even remember what that was really like.
it was crazy. It was
like-
crazy. So like MTV was the thing, right? Like
Oh,
it
yeah.
was such a big deal. Like I had MTV 24/7.
We don't know who you're talking to right now. Like we are like
No, don't.
still to this day pretty big MTV fans. Like,
The nostalgia is just, it's so huge for us.
and we're
Yeah.
mainly like vintage MTV fans, but like we are
Right.
all
That was like the reason to watch TV. It was the reason to have cable.
It was
we're all
amazing.
in on
It was-
MTV.
it was-
We're MTV diehard,
That's awesome.
ride or
The
die.
little astronaut on the moon
Oh, absolutely.
with the
Absolutely.
flag. So
I could wear one of those shirts and it would not just be like some random thing I saw at Target. It would be like for real.
Oh my God.
You mean it. True love.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so that was also really
Did you have like the congregation of the neighborhood like coming over to watch MTV at your
I'd
house?
have my friends over. I have my friends over because we also watched Showtime and HBO.
Ooh, oh yeah, that's
I think I watched like Scarface like 100 times
Right.
before I was even in 7th grade. I mean, I was just like, I was like, I shouldn't be, but I was
David
really,
was like,
that's how things work.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
he's like mouthing it along.
Oh no, the worst thing is like there's that I can't think of how it goes right now. I shouldn't try to even bring it up, but there's this terrible song in Scarface, and it's something like "Take It to the Limit." Yeah, it's just like this really awful track, and I remember just thinking how awful that was because Miami Vice was out by then, and the Miami Vice like the theme song was so big, which I bought the 45 for that. Doom.
Yeah.
Right? It's got so many
so
elements.
good.
I had a white jacket that I would wear with like fluorescent shirts, like when I was a kid. Like I had like the Don Johnson jacket.
Don Johnson
Little
look.
kid though.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a cool look.
love
And I would
that.
wear that with a mullet, like that
That's
was my
rad.
like fancy going out to dinner like
Oh, you're killing.
That's rad.
jacket. Yeah.
I need
That's
photo
awesome.
And it was in
evidence of
Florida. Yeah. Jacqueline has never heard this story
Oh, this
before.
is too much. I'm gonna have to put that in a box and like.
Where in Florida were you at?
Well, it was Daytona Beach.
Okay.
During that era, I was
So like Miami Vice era, little Gus in Daytona is rocking the mullet with the
Nice.
Don Johnson vibe.
Mhm.
I think the first time I went.
I was
yeah,
Augustus Johnson.
I thought for sure flamingos were all over Florida. That was like what I thought. I just thought
I've
Florida
never
was
seen
like
a real
Miami.
flamingo.
We were
See, that's
just talking
everybody I
about
talked to from Florida. Like, there's no flamingos here, dude.
Oh,
But
Hilarious.
yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, so you were collecting a lot of 45s, and you said you had like drum machines and stuff, and you're working in hip hop. Like,
Mhm.
I imagine those things informed each other.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, that was I got a drum machine because I wanted to start doing more like tracks on my own. And
Gateway.
I just wanted to like just get more into it. And at that time there was there was a weird time in hip hop at that point. Like the 90s were over, and there was a lot of diverging styles of hip hop. Like backpack hip hop was kind of like fading out, but there was still like this really cool kind of abstract hip hop scene going on, and I noticed that a lot of them were starting to play instruments like in their sets, like more live, less sample. Well, they were still sample based, but it was like their instruments were showing up on stages. So I was thinking about that stuff, and thinking how I can get into that at some point. It didn't actually happen. I was way more interested in the lyrics and all that stuff. But I had this really good buddy named Josh Powers, aka Strange Powers, and he is still like my best friend. And he was really into the making the music part, and his lyrics were ridiculous. So he kind of like he was doing the heavy lifting with the beats, but I like to jam on something. So I always had that in the back of my mind. I really liked the way that like drum sequencing worked. So that's something that carried over to like even today, you know.
Yeah, I could
Were
see
you
that.
using like a sampler or like an
I was
analog
using
drum
that.
machine or
There's that Boss, Doctor.
Dr. Sample?
Mhm.
That wasn't a sample. It was like it was
Dr.
just,
Beats? Like
yeah.
the DR 550 or whatever?
It was a DR. I think it had an 8 in it. I just remember it didn't have samples because it was very if you like screwed around with the filter on it, it really got crunchy. Like it sounded like I don't know. Maybe it did have samples, but like it definitely didn't have. Yeah, I don't know. I have to look it up. I'll look it up. We'll drop it in the show notes or something. What was
Yes.
that drum? What was what was
Might have been.
those?
Yeah, I think I was like using like some like Dr. Groove, box or something like
Yeah,
that.
it
Like,
was. I just remember it was black with like kind of fluorescent orange.
yeah, no, I
Had a
know
filter
exactly
on it,
which one
which
you're
was like
talking
key.
about.
The filter
Yeah.
on it was sick. That
Mhm.
was like half my style. It was like,
I think that's
Yes.
like the SP202
there you go.
or something like that.
Yeah, that sounds. Yeah, I don't know.
I had a black and fluorescent orange Roland Boss thing myself, and I don't really know what it is anymore either. But like,
Yeah,
I remember making some of my first beats, and I borrowed it from my friend. Like, I didn't buy one, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't have any money back then,
Yeah.
and so like I just borrowed, like whatever crap my friends weren't using. I would always just try to snag it from them and
yeah,
mess around with it.
yeah. Those are cool. Like real immediate, like satisfaction with those drum machines. They were
Absolutely.
cool.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got into DJing. Like I was like, I lived in a house where somebody had turntables at the house, and I had collected a pretty large amount of hip hop and trip hop. I had a lot of trip hop. I was really into trip hop too. So I had all these like records, and I was like, sweet, I'm gonna learn how to DJ and beat match, and I learned how to beat match, and you know, hip hop thing didn't really kind of fizzled out, with groups and stuff like that, and but I was still DJing, and then I thought, oh, I'm gonna get like some happy hour gigs, just playing down tempo and hip hop, and then
Totally.
so I got a gig. I had a buddy who got me a gig doing that, and then that's when it started. That's when all that kicked in. Like, oh, for time, okay, gotta count the beats. So learning how to beat match time signatures. Yeah, I was like 20 something years old. I'm like, oh, that's what it is.
That's so
After
interesting because you were able to get through all of that other musical experience you had without needing that information or like without it really, I guess, impeding you or without
it's
knowing
funny.
it.
It's funny because I think it's funny what people just kind of assume you knew because you were doing music.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And I look at it now. I think I look at most people playing and modular, synth stuff, and I try not to assume that I think that they know it, that they have any background. I really try to, because I'm like, I don't want to think about it. They can either be breaking the rule they know, or they can have no idea about it. It's totally okay. But my daughter, she's going to be in third grade, and what they showed her was they're actually teaching them a lot of cool music at her school right now. It's just a public school, nothing
Oh, cool.
extra, but like they showed her some cool like little programs that have like samples, and you can kind of rearrange the shapes to make different beats and play different songs, and that's pretty cool. I feel like that actually can go that'll take them pretty far with like visualizing it, it's structuring it in a way that
Wow. Yeah.
just
They're being
sounds
taught
weird.
music from like a totally different
Yeah,
perspective.
they're not having to be like, you have to learn sheet music and then you can touch the instrument. Not
You
that
better
they're
play like
making,
Mozart.
yeah, exactly. So there is that, and I think that's kind of like unfortunately, like it's a cool approach, but it's also an approach they can probably only take because they can't afford instruments. No one's funding it,
That's true. Yeah.
So
And
that's
it can
tough.
be justified as like a technology or like a STEM related type thing, right? If we're like talking about, music and technology, which is, great. Like that's the future.
Yeah. And I think like, well, that in that David Burns book about music, he has that whole chapter at the beginning about how everybody used to just play music in their house.
Right.
And I think that's been lost for sure.
Oh yeah, that's been a major theme in the people we've been covering in the podcast is almost everyone. It's like, oh, they didn't grow up with music studies, but then they had like 18 instruments. Everyone had a piano. Everybody's uncle was over playing the bagpipes, like
right.
constant music, and the collections of,
the pub,
listening to
people,
music too.
if it wasn't, it was a community center, like a pub.
Yeah, they didn't really have much else to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Like there's just, it was in people's lives. And yeah, you're right. I think it had something to do with the limited
maybe options for entertainment.
amount of entertainment.
Yeah, I think it's just it was probably more natural to sing, with your family or with your friends, because that was just an activity. But then it got commercialized and it became one of those things where you paid for it.
Yeah.
Because like and then if it's not worth paying for, it must not be worth listening to. It must not be worth doing. Like, why would you waste your time learning how to sing or play music if that's not what you're going to do for a living? Which is a terrible thing when you say it out loud. Like, why would you stymie people like that? Like, why would you do? Oh, well, I mean, that's at that point. Why don't we just teach all the kids how to, Outlook?
Yeah.
How to look at Excel sheets.
How to sit
because
in a
what
chair.
else? Why else teach them anything else? Because it's not. So.
Oh man.
Right. Answers to emails.
That is so good. That's
exactly.
so good.
Exactly.
Wow.
Well, I mean, some people would argue that's what schools are kind of doing. They're teaching people how to be factory workers. Show up on time, sit in your right seat, do this work. But that's a whole nother discussion.
I know. We could get so into
you could YouTube that, parents. But back to me. Just joking.
I love this. You've just been really enlightening me to things I didn't realize that my subconscious was doing when watching people play music, or especially modular, or like anything else you brought up too. This idea of if I'm playing music at home with friends and family, does that still have value?
Mm-hmm.
And man, that's some deep stuff. I haven't thought.
Yeah, it's funny. It's so that is honestly like one of those things in the back of my mind for when we're doing shows and when we're doing any kind of sharing on there. Like, this is as close as we can get to the living room with your friends singing along kind of a thing. Is kind of, what are you up to? Here in Colorado, I wasn't the one who started that. That's actually Alex Anderson from WMD.
Oh, right.
Nasty Nachos. He started Freak Boutique, and he was really, 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 really passionate. He still is really passionate about telling people, just come and play. Like, it doesn't matter if you have a finished piece. It doesn't matter if you're new to it or old to it. It doesn't matter if it's music or not. Whatever. Just bring it in and let's just see what's going on. And let's just kind of talk about it and share about it. He's been really good about that. And those first couple of years, especially, I remember those real vividly. People would sometimes just show up with just a case and and just be like live patching and just doing weird stuff, and it was awesome. It was awesome to be in a room where there was the expectation was just to be yourself, and it wasn't like, I'm here for a show and I don't like that. I can't dance to it, or it's not moody, whatever. No one cared about that. It still is a totally safe space,
Yeah.
I think that's really important for modular, especially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say that, I feel like the coolest thing to me about what's happening now with experimental music sort of being at the forefront, in my opinion, in terms of,
we live in a bubble and we think that experimental music is huge right now.
Yeah, in my bubble,
I don't know. That's what we think.
It's killing it, right? And so I'm really enjoying that because, for somebody who's always been to shows where there's 5 people in the room and somebody's
it's not that communal feeling, right?
Somebody's playing a crank, oscillator, the kind of thing that you would use as an alarm to let them know bombs are dropping.
Yes.
During
I've
a
been
war.
to that show. Yes.
And stuff like that. And this is the song, I don't know, just I love experimental music, and to see it being something that so many people are appreciating with such an open, mind, it's just nice to be in what feels like, at least, I know that we're not in physical spaces. Well, now I feel like things are changing, which is great. But, like what feels at least like a packed room, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah. In
nice.
online space now can feel like
it's
a
nice
better
to be
packed
a
room
part
than,
of that, to at least feel like, hey, the thing that I'm into that normally would be like, the weirdest thing, and like maybe I could get a friend to show up if, they're being nice to me, like, to being something where like, wow, like,
can't ask him again to come to the next one though.
This isn't just like one shared booth of like all the manufacturers of synthesizers, anymore. Like, this is like, a pretty big group, and it's just nice to see it. Like,
yeah. So I don't think we've like been super formal about this, but maybe you can talk to us about, we didn't really get to Sine Mountain's birth and, that moment, but also Colorado Modular Synth Society. So those are the things, maybe we want to hit on a little bit for, so people know what to connect you to.
Yeah, let me try to also unpack a little bit what you were just talking about there too, because there's a few things I probably will forget if I'm bringing them back in too. The audience is really open-minded. We're really lucky to be writing the very first few chapters of this scene. And I think luckily a lot of people are coming into it, with open-mindedness, knowing that like the last scene they probably came from wasn't like that. And I think that I'm hearing from other people, oh, I used to be in this scene. It never was like this. No one's ever shared like this. Everything used to be held a secret. It was competitive. All these other things. And I think we know that, and we're trying to, consciously not bring that bullshit into the scene. So I think there is that. And when you let go of all that ego, and you let go of, quite frankly, the capitalism of a scene, trying to like, how can I make money, or how if you let that go, you can sit back and just enjoy it for what it is. And I think that's why we have those audiences. They were like, right on. He's going to do some experimental stuff, and I'm going to hang out and check it out. I'm going to check out the whole thing. And if he does it again, I'll come back and I'll see it again. I'm going to buy his out, whatever. Like, people are into it because they're not trying to overthink it. They're just enjoying. They're letting these new textures and sounds and sometimes compositions, like, enter into their brain because it is completely new and fresh in a world where everything feels like a copy. This is a very fresh, and especially if you're into this scene, that it is temporary, and that recording or that performance, is, yes, a recording to a certain degree. It is being frozen in time, but unlike other things that get frozen in time, it would be very hard to replicate. And sometimes they are not actually recorded. Sometimes it's just a live performance, and you lose the track of where it's at. But I mean, you know that that's there. So there's also this, sense of urgency to enjoy it and be in the moment, which is so healthy for whatever you're doing, to be in the moment. So I don't know if everyone's really going zen when they're listening to it, or thinking about it, because they think it, maybe not. But I think, this thing happens through osmosis because of the way it's set up. The environment, it's like this. You go for a walk because you say, I need to walk. I got to get my 10,000 steps, right? Your doctor said that. Okay, cool. I can walk on a treadmill. I can whatever. But maybe I'm just going to take this path, that's by my house. I want to do that. I know I'm going to do that. Like, you go into it, we're kind of like, I'm just trying to be healthy. I'm just trying to do this thing for myself, and I want to learn, and I want to get better. And then as you're walking in that path, you start to notice, I never noticed that tree. I never noticed that type of bird. Man, it's sunny. Now it's hot. And you start to take in all this stuff. And it wasn't like your intention to be a nature-loving dude or gal or whatever. Like, it wasn't like you're like, I'm going to go out there, but you might walk back you might come back from that walk and you might think more about nature than you ever have in your whole life, and you didn't even mean to. So I think that's like what's happening with with modular music, or at least in synth music, modular synth scene, is that people kind of go into it. They're like, oh, that's cool. I want, it's like you hear this all the time. I want to go DAW-less. I want to experiment. I want to like you have something more tactile. True, all true. That's exactly why I got into it. But what I didn't expect to come out of it was we wanted to be involved in communities, to really want to connect with people, and to really learn a lot about storytelling, through sound, and understanding, that there's these colors and these moments and these spaces in this music that makes me think about things that aren't musical. It makes me think about my life. It makes me think about you. It makes me think about us. It makes me think about the what's real and what's not. All these things, and all of a sudden I become very deep in something that initially I just wanted to like blow off some steam. So
Mhm.
so it's interesting, when that this is happening, and I'm not sure that we're consciously having this awesome hive moment together, but we are.
Yeah.
We are. You can see it happening all the time, and when you're playing, it's even though you're not in that physical space, you know that there's other people on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, you can feel it.
You can feel it. And that's another amazing thing. It's weird. I know we're saying in person, but honestly, we have been in person to a certain degree, right?
Yeah, I think so. Probably more.
We've been really personal.
Yeah.
We've been really, really personal during this time, and I don't think that would ever have happened, no matter how cool the venue is.
Never.
Back to David Byrne. David Byrne plays,
Yes.
CBGB, whatever. Like, how many people have gone to that show? How many of those people who went to the show are now best friends? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not that. There's the stage, there's the artist, but what about the people who went to the show? And
Yeah.
that's what's different about what's going on right now. It's sometimes it's not even about the artist. I don't remember that
No,
guy's name. I
right.
don't remember her name. I don't remember that show. But I remember chatting with somebody and making friends with that person. It's kind of crazy. It's just a real different thing that's happened. That again, I
Yeah.
don't think was conscious, but here we
No,
are.
it's been really cool. Like in what you described about how you kind of just like take the next step to the next sound and kind of like allow it and follow it. And it's like
Yeah.
that's the same process we've been going through to be where we are now, which is, when you don't get to control things, it's really cool to see how it unfolds. But that's just it's rare what we're going through. Normally things are more like manipulated into place. So it's really beautiful to see that. And we've experienced it. It's really interesting doing, live streamed shows where you want the audience to talk while you're playing, which
Yeah.
is not usually what I wanted when I was playing live. And now I'm like so excited when people are talking, but it feels right. And I never would have expected that.
And
That
it's
is
the
true.
way to do it. I mean, if you think about it, like there's no like version of
When else
that
are you going to talk
that you
about
can
what?
do
Yeah.
in the room that's not going to come off as rude or not going to feel disturbing. I can like completely and totally listen to something and be 100% into it and type,
Mm-hmm.
Right. But not talk.
but I could
Right.
not do that
Mhm.
and talk. You know what I mean? So it's like
Right. Yeah.
that's an interesting aspect of it. Is I never really even thought about that. The idea of like being able to talk and share thoughts and ideas. Not
I mean,
only
it's making those deeper connections because you're watching someone perform, you're getting to talk with other people and like, oh, wait, I didn't know that artist was from my town, or, like all these things you're
Yeah.
gathering in the moment from other people too. It's really strange.
Can you imagine going to like a live show like pre-COVID and being like, "Hey, this is pretty rad. This is cool."
Right.
It wouldn't be
I'm
like,
so
"Hey,
glad
dude."
you're here. It's so good to see you.
Yeah,
This is awesome.
exactly. So you're like, "Hey guys!" Every time someone walks into a venue,
But
it's like,
honestly, I can't really imagine
Hey,
it being
so-and-so's
that way
here.
after COVID, so it's
it might
not, I
not.
can't
Yeah.
imagine it like changing all of a sudden where like, now I go into
You
a
can
show.
or you can't.
No, I can't imagine it
Everybody goes
being,
back.
Well, I don't know what anyone looks like.
it being like a chat room all of a sudden. Speaking of which, are you planning on going to NobCon?
I've been thinking about it out loud. lately.
You should go. We're going.
Yeah. Well, there's reason. I mean,
We're advocating.
I am totally itching to go see as many people as I can, for sure.
Yeah, when we saw that pop up, we were like, immediately, yes.
Yeah, and
yes.
Flights aren't too expensive. I just got to figure out the times and stuff. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny because like I think when I look at performances and I look up if I'm watching one or if I'm doing a pre-recorded, if the chat is blowing up, then I feel like people are into it. Even if they're not talking to me, it's like so it's true. It's like this different etiquette that happens there. It's like the vibe you get. Like instead of people nodding their heads or swaying with the music, it's the chat. Like,
Yes.
oh, cool. This chat's there's people here. They're talking. They're into it.
Whereas if people were joking around amongst themselves, like at
oh my God, I would be horrified.
At a show, you'd imagine you just think like no one cares. Like this is why did the venue even have this band play or whatever. This is obviously a mismatch.
Exactly. Everyone's because we've seen that, right? We've seen like the opening band totally get dissed, and you're like,
oh yeah.
Well, like we would, for example, play at this bar where the bar itself was just like a raucous, like college bar, on the weekends, whatever. Like it was just busy all the time, like, spot. But like there was this like tucked in the back. I feel like I've seen a lot of venues like this actually. Like it's like a city thing. And like tucked in the back is like this little music venue.
We could have bands back here. It's
where
like a janitor's
it's
closet.
completely separated from like
where the people actually are hanging out.
Is actually happening.
No one knows it's back there. Your friends are coming to this show; they don't even know where it is.
Or someone's going to the bathroom and like, "Whoa, what's this?"
But every once in a while, the place would get so crowded that like a few people would be pushed to the outer reaches into the venue.
I actually don't know what venue you're talking about.
Really?
Yeah.
That Irish bar downtown.
Oh, Casey's Pub.
Yeah, Casey's Pub. Right.
Yes, exactly.
Casey's Pub, big venue.
It's a cool place, but yeah, it's that exact thing where it's like the people who are there for the music are not the people who are there for the bar. We don't know why anyone's putting on shows here. What is going on? But
they were like completely separate institutions.
Don't have to have that kind of experience.
They did not give any fucks about each other.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've DJ'd situations like that for sure.
Oh wow!
I'm like, wow, no one really cares what I'm playing right now.
I was a DJ first and foremost too, like with electronic music and stuff. So I related to that early on in your story. I was like, oh yeah, I had my days.
I have most of my records still, which is
I have a lot of them too.
It's so hard to get.
I actually probably have gotten rid of probably like half of them just over the years. Like trying, like giving them to people. I'm moving. Like, hey man, you want to listen to some like UK breaks from the late '90s? It's a hard sell.
Yeah, those are tough. Yeah, especially when you played them so much and they're just kind of.
But I feel like there's some like ethereal breaks and stuff that would make good samples. Like,
there's so much good stuff. I feel like I could pull out any one of these and it's gonna be like, oh yeah, it's a great track. But I was rough on everything. So the covers just look terrible, and they're like, no one would ever buy it.
Mine are pretty beat up too. Yeah, I mean, definitely not.
You played them. That's good.
Right.
You didn't collect them. You just played them.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, we have that problem. Definitely.
So I did. So I DJ'd for about, I think, 7 years, and I got to a point where it was like I had this cool little like residency at this cool lounge downtown in Denver called Double Daughters, and you guys would love this place. If you get a chance, Google Double Daughters Denver.
Next stop.
It's crazy. It looks like a crazy like carnival area. It's really trippy. Anyhow, it was a cool spot to play, and it was very like I can play a lot of stuff there, and I really got into like minimal like house at the end of it. I was just like playing really super minimal stuff, and but then I got serious about my career and got married and like I had kids, and I was just kind of like I can't stay up late anymore. I gotta like focus. So I just kind of ditched it, and which is actually probably good because I was just staying up way too late and drinking way too much. And then after a while, you're just like, oh gosh, I got to do something. I'm starting to get depressed from like not doing anything creative and not being around music. And again, my buddy Josh Powers, aka Strange Powers, who was like, still doing music. He was still making music, and I went over to his house, and he had like that little Korg. What's not the Volca, the one that came out before the Volca, is that little like delay one? What's that?
Oh, the mono rocket delay.
Is that what it's called?
I think
It's
so.
like a little black thing, has a little keyboard on it, and he had one of those, and I thought
that might not be it at all. But
Might
it
not be it.
sounds
I'm
right
sure
to
I'm gonna
me.
get
It
on board with
sounds fun.
Yeah. It was one of those like really cool little like it's just like a little effects Korg that was like so small, and I thought it was so cool, and I was like, wow, they're making that kind of stuff. Like they're making, how much is it? So I immediately went out and looked up for other stuff, and I found the pocket operators, and I bought the pocket operators.
Oh, sweet. Yeah.
And I was like, oh, sweet. And this is my plan. I was like, oh wow, there's all this cool stuff that's like under $200. I'm gonna make a whole like set of stuff that's under $200, and I'm gonna like that's gonna be my thing. I'm gonna have all these little gadgets and gadgets, and it's gonna be so sweet. So I was like looking and thinking about it, and then I saw the No Coast, and I was like, well, that does look pretty cool, and all the wires and everything. I don't know anything about Eurorack. I don't know anything about synths, but that thing was really cool. And those very first couple of videos they had for it, and those are super experimental, right? It was just like I'm like, there was like nothing musical
Very
about
West
those.
Coast.
Yeah, it was super West Coast, and it was just like, and this is, and I was like, damn, that is so cool looking. Like I don't have to worry about like, who cares if there's a keyboard? There's no keyboard to it. You can just plug it in.
Yeah, if that thing would have been out when I would have gotten into it, like that was not out yet when I got into modular. But I probably would have wanted to check that thing out. It still looks cool to me.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing, and all those really great like early videos of like how to patch it and all the ideas that like they were sharing, that Walker was sharing on those.
Yeah, all the Walker stuff.
It was so good, and it was enough for me to abandon that idea that I had of just getting Volcas or whatever other like little.
There, that's so.
And I was like, I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it.
You could have been king of the micro sampler, man.
Could have been that guy. I could have totally been that guy. I remember what happened was I bought is it Model? I don't know, Modal. Those guys that make really nice synths. They had like this DIY.
Yeah.
They had like this DIY synth, like that you can kind of like piece together. It was like 5 little boards and you put together, and it was a really cool little synth. And I bought that, and I had to like hook it up to a iPad to make it work, and now things were getting like too complicated, and I was like, oh, I'm not liking that. And like it had like a faulty like part on it, and we troubleshooted it, and it was like, no, this is broken, just send it in, we'll send you another one. I was like, you know what, no, I just want that No Coast. So
that was
what
it. You were like, forget all this nonsense.
Did you build this thing? What is it again? Like I never heard of it.
Oh man, what was it? Yeah, it was. I might have to leave the this also in the notes. What was it called?
The listeners are going to want to know what
they're going to want to know what the heck I'm talking about. That's what they're called, Modal, right? I mean, why can't I think of their name?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah,
were they like little effects pedals?
No, they were like little. Let's see what it says here. It was the Craft Synths. Modal Electronics Craft Synths. It's a little monophonic, and they made a drum machine too. They made a Craft Rhythm, and that has a drum machine. And they were like 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4 little pieces. It came in like a tight little box. Hooked it up.
Mm-hmm.
It was very simple. It was very simple to put together. It actually sounded really cool. It sounded really great. But it was just like one of those things where it's kind of flimsy, so you weren't going to play out with it. You had to have it hooked up to an iPad for it to really like open up. And I didn't have any like yeah, it was. So it just wasn't for me, honestly.
But
But
this was your like stepping stone to get.
yeah, I was trying to get all these little things together.
Mhm.
I had like a DJ mix. Still have my like a DJ mixer. I was using that for all of my effects. I was really piecing it together, with the drum, with the peel, with the pocket operators and
Mhm.
this little thing, and then yeah, it was just weird. So, but no, I got that Okos, and that was kind of it. Then after that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get like a happy ending kit, and then I had this, crazy thing happen with WMD. I've told this story a couple times in another show, so I won't go too deep into
No, we want only fresh content.
only first content. Yeah, but basically, I had this thing
Don't
where
you dare skip your WMD story, boy.
boy, we got you, we got you. The one thing only. The short
We would have
version.
made you do it at the end anyway.
exactly. Uh, but the short version is that I came across stolen WMD gear and I got it back to WMD, and we became friends. And they gave me a Chimera,
Yeah, you were.
and that was like
Nice.
that was my first module. So I said a Chimera, a No Coast, and a Happy Ending kit, and that was like away I went. You know, just got into it. That was like that was you know that made it. I was like, this is for sure something I get into. Like that experience with the WMD guys, with Alex and Matt at the time.
You still have the Chimera.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. That's one of those things I just never. No. I one time thought like maybe I should get something else because I don't want to get into. I don't want to do modular drums. And then I thought about it and I was like, no, I do.
That module is sick, actually. Like I remember when it first came out, I forwarded it to my buddy Dave, and I was like, "Hey, man, this does some sweet cymbals." That's the module, right?
Yeah, it's got
Yeah,
a shake.
yeah,
It's got a shake. Was technically it's like there was their shaker kind of thing.
yeah. The shaker.
But it's
That's right. Yeah, it was more of like a percussion thing.
you can oscillate it though, which is pretty dope.
That's what I might have heard. Yeah, you get some wild like inharmonic sounds when
really because really it's a real cool metallic stuff. They like sampled a ton of different stuff into it to make it sound like that. There's actually
if I was into Eurorack, I would definitely be into their stuff. Like I've always loved the like Geiger counter and Batman, and their pedals are really cool. But the modules are even better. Like I actually had a Eurorack early on, and I had a Geiger counter Eurorack module.
Nice.
Yeah,
nice.
It was one of the first modules that I bought. Like I just was like, I gotta have that Geiger counter in there. It was, of course, when you first get started, you buy like 5 effects and like 1 oscillator.
Yes,
that's right. That's right.
And I definitely did that, but I feel like I could use that module as like an extra oscillator. It was so wild.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's got all kinds of. I mean, it's intense. It's a super intense thing. But all their stuff is intense and it's super playable, which was another thing that was super great because my plan from the get-go was I wanted to be able to play live. That was like whatever I do, I have to be able to perform live. Like I'm cool with recording and stuff, but I don't want to record anything that I couldn't do live. Maybe not again,
right?
But like at least like that kind of performance. So lucky that WMD is here in town because that was exactly what they told me. They're like, we make modules to play live with. We battle test everything. We give our stuff to artists. We play out all the time, and we're just like beating the hell out of these things. We know they're great for playing live. We're like perfect. Let's get in. And then the other thing that was really really great about it was that like they have jacks for everything. They had a jack for every single parameter, and then if it had any sort of like anything internal, any kind of modulation or anything like that, they had out jacks. So you get your first like couple WMD modules, and you got like 6 or 7 jacks on it already. You're like, whoa, what do I do with this? Like I already have like all these options, and that wasn't true for like everything that else I saw, where it was like, yeah, you have some inputs, you have some outputs, but you couldn't CV everything. And you definitely couldn't get all the outputs. You only got like the one output that the module said. WMD was just like, nope, everything that goes in comes out. we got, I remember I got I still have it. It's over here somewhere. But I got the multi-mode VCA. That was my first VCA. The thing inverts, the thing has bias, the thing mixes, the thing has saturation, it has crossfade, it does all this stuff, and then it has the outputs, the inverted outputs, the mix, the inverted mix. I had no idea what to do.
And
with
you're
half
like,
of
what
that.
am I going
What am
to do with
But I'm
yeast?
so glad because it was really great for experimenting.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
I would talk to William from WMD, and he'd be like, you can turn that into a ring modulator. I'm like, I don't even know what a ring modulator is yet, man. That's cool. I got one. I thought I just had a VCA because everyone says get a VCA. Like, well, it's a mixer. Oh, well, okay. So there I am, like, just it's experimenting, and it was so good to have those modules that were definitely not like the ones that I was hearing about. They weren't like the most popular, whatever.
Right.
But it really matched well with what I was doing with that no coast because it was so experimental. It was so many weird things were happening in all the patch notes that Walker was doing. So it was a great mix. It was really good to be like wanting to do experimental stuff and being like I mentioned, like I didn't know what all the music theory was I was breaking. I didn't know that, so
Right.
I didn't care about it at the time. So it was really nice to have those early modules that were really would have been like modules someone probably would have got into once they realized, okay, I have all these things I want to, or I know the ins and outs of synthesis enough to like, be really use these like the
Right. I was going to say, what kind of like ideas did you have about the music you wanted to make that informed those choices, or was it really just you were going off your instincts and just kind of following your passion?
Yeah, I was just going a lot off my instincts, and I was really trying to make spacey music, which I think you all will appreciate.
Yeah, I think that sounds like something we might be interested in.
Yeah, you might. So yeah, I was really just trying to just do a lot of like spacey stuff, but also I saw those early Krell patches, and I was like, I want to make a Krell patch.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, there you go.
I wanted to do that. I was really just trying to like look for that big, weird, blurpy, beepy sound, and then wash it with some reverb and stuff like that. One thing that did happen, it was kind of funny at one point. Like I remember, I said something to Alex, or Alex said something to me about playing techno or something, because I was playing Freak Boutique and I was just doing these weird, like strange sets and stuff. It was fine. It was awesome. But he said something about doing techno, so I said, I'm gonna make a techno track. Because I used to have all these house records. I'm like, I'm gonna make my version of a techno track, and I did that, and it was kind of like Plastic Man, where it was like doom doom doom, and then like wow, doom doom, this big like slow evolving like atmosphere with like this really scary beat underneath. And I was like, so then I got into that for like a long time, for like probably a year. I was just trying to like do. So that's when I like started building up my drum modules and stuff like that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But like I have like a lot of like, and I was listening to some of it the other day. And it's like it's still like spacey. It's just like space techno meets experimental, melodies and strange time signatures.
Spacey techno is really cool.
Definitely.
I've made stuff myself that I would kind of put into that category, and it's fun. Like it's really cool to like mix the like steady beat with like some nice delay or some like side chaining, and like get that really like pumpy like just like
there's a lot you can do with that.
Do you think the X-Files movies count as an episode?
You know what? It's I actually never saw it. I never saw the whole thing. I never saw the thing. It was one of those. There's a couple TV shows I never finished. And I think it's because at the time I got a little snobby about things.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And also like TV wasn't as easy to track down.
I was just kidding. I was at certain points in my life where if it got popular enough, I wanted nothing to do with it.
I completely can relate
was
to
like,
that. I was like that too.
this show is way more better when I was the only one watching it, as if,
That was like my
obviously.
personality for a while.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. It was like, it was just this terrible thing. I think I just kind of,
I missed out on a lot of stuff.
I did. I totally did. I'm trying to catch up with some of it now, and I think it's funny, and I try to talk about that a lot, about not doing that as I get older, because I still see people do it, and
Oh, sure.
I feel that pull of not liking something that's popular. I see it all the time, and it's not healthy, And I definitely, like you
I
said,
feel
you
like you're
miss out.
staring through my soul,
I know.
Jacqueline.
In that, I have recently found joy in like collectively enjoying popular things. That's new for me, though. It's new.
It's new.
It's new for me too. It's definitely like, yeah, I would say that that's been one of my big things, to like go back and enjoy life a little bit, and not be such
I don't know. It was like cool to be like cynical and like not care and not like stuff.
Not be such like a 90s
Yeah.
cynical, cantankerous.
Totally.
Like
Conan O'Brien, like, this is such a weird thing. So Conan O'Brien like starts his show on TBS, and it was like, I don't know if you remember like what happened, but like, he was supposed to take over David Letterman's spot, and it didn't happen, whatever.
Yes.
So then he's on TBS or whatever, and I remember like I was a Conan O'Brien fan. I thought he was pretty. I think he was very funny, and I remember that very first episode of that very first TBS show. He's like doing his little monologue, and then he just kind of like stops and says this little like thing about like, you know what? Okay, kids, don't be so cynical. It's just not worth it. It's not good. It's not going to help you through life. That kind of stuff. And then he goes right back to his monologue, and it was just like such a strange like. I remember like you were saying, look into your soul. I was like,
yeah,
that wasn't necessarily funny. That it didn't flow into anything, But it was just like this like really like interesting thing for him to say. And how it's strange, the things that influence you.
Yeah,
where
definitely.
They come from,
Yeah, like that stayed with you.
Like, I feel like before he went to bed that night, he looked himself in the mirror and was like, only you could pull that off. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
It was a nice thing. The thing is, like, he could have said anything. He could have joked about it. He could have like just leaned into it. He could have ignored it. He could have whatever. And he just kind of got to the core of like, the whole thing. Like, don't be cynical. Like, whatever. So I think that's cool, and it's weird. The things like that stick with you, and but it's good. It's good to do random acts of kindness is cool, but also like this random philosophy.
Yeah, there you go.
It's also kind of like,
you never know who you're going to impact.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever like stood in line somewhere and the person in front of you like this kind of like small talks and accidentally just like
tells you the truth about everything.
Tells you the truth about something.
Totally.
Like, I was just waiting in line, for the bank teller or whatever, and now I'm just kind of wondering if I should go back to work or not.
Yeah.
So just pack up and just go.
Wow.
Like that's what it is. But yeah, people, they do that, and you can do it too. So I guess it goes back to community and just talking to people. And it's funny.
I love that. Yeah, I think the kinds of, I don't know, the depth that we're able to get with people in this sort of like virtual space seems to be a lot easier. I don't know, like I thought I was going to hate all of this Zooming, right? And obviously we've all just gotten used to it, but like it has allowed us to have more, like we are playing more shows in more, places around the world. We are connecting with more people around the world. I am doing more connecting with, even just friends or other people we're collaborating with on music. And I thought it would feel sterile and cold and awful and just I would just be over it. Like, I don't want to look at a screen, another screen, right? But there's something that it like this sort of protection of like, well, I'm in my space and like, I feel comfortable. And then I'm able to like show up in this virtual space where you're also in your space and comfortable. And like, we're all like maybe I'm only on chat, maybe I'm on video, right? Like, and we can set all these parameters for ourselves, then we can show up like more authentically.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been so surprised by that over this past year and a half. Like, especially like we said in the music community itself, and specifically for, modular synth, it's just been, I think, a shift from, what I was experiencing online as a woman in music and in the synth community, like the shift that it happened, because now we're all like accepting that we do actually live in this virtual space, and that like the same kind of social contracts and consequences need to apply.
Yeah, totally.
And it's created more positive experiences for me personally.
Yeah, no, it's awesome for you to hear you say that, because I feel the same way. It is really surprising how we're doing it, how we're acting, how we're being, and how well it's turned out to be for so many of us. And maybe they'll look back at it, and after a while of some sort of cool way we created this little coping mechanism. Maybe this is some collective coping that we're doing. I think what you're talking about, like the way it was before, especially, with the prejudices and the biases and all the other bullshit.
Well, very like faceless kind of interactions, where like, oh, well, that's like an alter persona I have on the internet, right? Like I'm this other person during the day, right? And now we don't have that distinction anymore.
Yeah, I'm a nice guy, during the day, and I'm just, bigoted on the online. Like you can't. I mean, you still could do that, but like it just doesn't. We'll call you out on it. Hopefully,
Yeah, it's so definitely harder to be that way, and it's not like the trend.
And I think that's been really awesome to see that happen, and to see those conversations going on, with frequency shift and all that stuff. I think that's amazing. I think, it's just, I just don't feel like, unfortunately, that conversation was going to happen,
right?
Before, and it would have been siloed, and that's just unfortunate. But to be like kind of somber here, like a lot of people died, and a lot of people are gone, and we have to not that, we have to do something with that, and we have to, I don't want to say make the best of it, because that's the wrong way of phrasing it, but we do have to reflect on what it is to be alive, and why we're in a situation that those people were unfortunately not. And we have to look at that and say, well, what can I do with that? What can I do with the life that I have, with the opportunities that I have, that I was probably 90% lucky just being born into it, or just, in the right place, right time, or whatever. I didn't have to go to work. I didn't have to do this. I wasn't raised with whatever, right? Like, if for whatever reason you have an opportunity, and, first of all, better yourself, and then help better the community. Let's do that. We're here. We're lucky enough to be here. So, it's one of those really strange things that I think we'll be kind of like grappling with for a long time, as far as understanding. Like, we're not even we're not even done with it, but it's still like, you're trying to cope with it, and you're trying to make sense of it all, and I'm really happy that, like, the synth community has done this, and I want to say something about that too, that's been on my mind, and I hope doesn't come the wrong way, but it was the community that did this. It wasn't, and I mean no ill will towards the people who put on shows, or people who supported artists in the past, but it wasn't the venues. You know what I mean? It wasn't the labels. It was us. It was the communities that rallied around and made shows happen. It was the communities that rallied around and kept the conversation going. It was the communities that got people inspired and got them to the point to some of them even performed or released their own music. It was all us. You know, it probably always was always us.
Mm-hmm.
We've been putting so much focus on venues, promoters, and record labels that when the shit hit the fan, they were very, very vocal about how we can't survive. There's
Right.
nothing we can do. Help us. We need to survive. But the thing is, like, the community was there the whole time. I'm not, and I know there's different situations and sequences, but like, we had, you know, we put our own time and money into
Right.
it, and we made those things happen. So, you know, it's kind of not to pat my back or, you know, everyone else, but like everybody that's watching this, everyone's part of, like, you kept this going. You made it happen. And when we go back in person, I hope we don't forget that we are the power.
Yeah.
We are the force to make that happen. And we don't. It's great to have a venue. It's great to have labels. But at the end of the day, you have to remember we don't necessarily need that to make this community.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like we were saying, like have gone through something that we couldn't have predicted and that was so, you know, painful and awful and devastating. But for that to be this sort of like proving ground for this community movement to happen is, I mean, I can't imagine something more positive coming from it, you know? And I know how easy it is for things to kind of, the potency of things to fade. So I hear what you're saying, and I want to just amplify that, you know, it can translate as much as we've been saying how cool it is to do things virtually, like it can translate in person, and we should be excited about those possibilities, and bringing that energy to the physical spaces. Like I think Gus was saying, like we can imagine these sort of like reunion feelings of going from the virtual to the physical space, instead of that sort of, oh no, everything's just going to go back the way it was, and there's going to be gatekeeping and, you know, egos and stuff. Like we don't have to. So
no, we don't have to. We should not allow it.
Great reminder. Thank you. We want to definitely, you know, amplify that message and be part of, you know, that movement in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be challenging to remain positive in that aspect, but I want to see it happen, you know.
Well, we have all this, you know, power now that we have behind us to, to overcome those moments.
David was saying, I agree, you know, and I think that, you know, that is sort of like one of the most powerful, you know, aspects about this whole thing is just, you know, the power, you know, that we have as a community. You know, we've seen it.
Just how like real it is.
Yeah.
It's not bots. It's not, you know, fake accounts or something. This is like a real community, real people. And it's like, it amazes me. And I don't know, I feel like every day I'm like discovering a new artist or finding a new, you know, connection with someone that I can't imagine happening even just like 3 years ago.
Yeah, every day I'm thinking about selling my entire rig. No, just kidding. I really honestly don't. That's a pure joke.
Well, this has been such an inspiring conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate
for joining us. Please tell us more about where we can find your music and any projects you're working on. Yeah,
totally. So I think the best place to find what I'm putting out is on Bandcamp. I put everything out on Bandcamp first. Usually I get around to putting it on the streaming service about 3 or 4 months later.
Yeah.
But definitely like the Bandcamp is where I'm putting all my like, you know, official releases. I've been spending more time putting stuff on YouTube, kind of messing around with some more visual stuff. So those are kind of interesting to check out. So definitely check out YouTube, and then to reach me or talk to me.
Sine Mountain, is that the name of your
YouTube channel? So I have almost everything should be findable through Sine Mountain, and so I do have a sinemountain.com. I don't really keep it up that often. My Instagram's probably like the other area, also Sine Mountain. But I'm so, you know, I also run Colorado Modular Synth Society, so wherever that is, you can
which we really didn't talk about enough, in my opinion. Like,
we could do it. We'll get Monoscene on here sometime, and he's been a big part of that this last year. So, but yeah. So anywhere that is, that's usually me talking in the background.
That is you.
That's usually me. So you can reach me in any of those channels. But yeah, I'm all over the place. I'm doing a event every fourth Sunday of the month for Colorado Modular Synth Society. The next one is on the 27th, and that's going to be about small cases. And then after that will be July Skies.
Yes.
And so you all have been on the Sky project before, so it's gonna be awesome. So we'll do that. But yeah, and then just as an artist, I have a lot of recordings, and slowly kind of just going listening to them again and trying to figure out what to put out. But I'm also doing a lot of focusing on the small case right now, and trying to do. It's weird. So I'm at a stage right now where I'm still in love with experimental music and atmospheric and cinematic kind of vibes, but I'm really being super intentional about tones, and even to a certain degree, like the underlying compositions of it. I'm thinking a lot about. I spend a lot of time just working on the tone before I put any effects on it, before I start even writing anything for it. And in my head I have like these little, they're sort of melodies, but they're like these little motifs I kind of want to get through and I want to like hit on. And so it's becoming more and more structured. And if you listen to like any of my last two albums, especially the last one, it's this idea that I can kind of build with these very specific blocks, and then when I'm actually performing, I can still improvise, but I know the textures that I'm dealing with, and it's weird. Not so much as getting away from me, I'm having less happy accidents.
Sure.
And it's on purpose, and it's totally fine. I have my happy accidents when I'm in my R&D stage. And then when I'm actually there, I'm like, cool, I know this is what I want to do. I want to hit this point. I want to hit this motif. This is the part of the story where it gets like this. This is the part of the vibe that goes here.
So you're like telling a story and being much more of a conductor of sorts.
And as much as I can with the way modular is, where it does kind of stretch and pull a lot. So
that's really cool, man.
Yeah, so I think that'd be interesting to see how that works out, and watch this in a year and see where I'm at. I might be doing techno space music,
Yeah, it'll be fun to check in.
At least one techno space track.
At least one.